afternoon, everyone, and wherever you are logged in from across the world. I believe there are people from India, US, Asia, Europe, everyone who are joined to listen to this very interesting and inspiring 2-hour program related to UK Medical School. What we are going to do is to give you a general idea. Our mission is to get interested people, especially from a non-medical background, to get information and help them to get into the medical university in UK. This is a free event arranged on behalf of Yorkshire Indian Charity Network and BITR Radio. Thanks to all volunteers who have come today to share their knowledge, expertise. They all have one thing in common, a passion for teaching. Without them, we could not have done this event, especially for free. Please note, we are not offering any professional advice and you should use your own discretion with the information shared. We are recording this event. Please stay with us if you are okay with it. I kindly request all of you to switch off your microphone and video, excluding the speakers, throughout the event. We will have an opportunity for interactions toward the end. If you have any questions, you can start typing in the chat box and we will try to answer it at the end of the talk. I request all students to have your pen and paper ready to take the notes. We are also planning to bring out a book early next year based on all the discussions we have today. If you want any clarification, please do not hesitate to contact me, Dr. Anand, on my mobile number, which is 07795176879. I repeat, UK number 07795176879. After this event, a few of the speakers, especially students, have volunteered to offer voluntary advice as well as professional help if required, especially medical students Abhi, Aditya, Siddharth, Karthi, and Samriddhi. What we are going to do is we'll continue with our interesting 11 talks. We'll have a 5 minutes comfort break in between, and at the end, we'll have question and answers. So let us start the event. Already there are, our Zoom link is full with 100 people. If people wanted to watch this, kindly you can listen to it and watch it on Facebook Live on BITR Radio. I repeat, it's Facebook Live. Search for BITR Gap Radio. It's British Indian Tamil Radio. So it's BITR Radio. Okay. Now we move on to our first speaker, Dr. Ravi Raman. Dr. Ravi Raman, I have a fond memory of him. He's a very, very helpful person. He's a senior anesthetist and was an associate medical director, I believe, in Birmingham. And he has held numerous senior management positions. So it is an ideal that we start with him, and he's going to briefly talk to us about why you should choose a career in medicine. Over to you, Raghu.
For this entertaining event this afternoon. I'm not going to say much. I've been given 5 minutes, but I think the rest of the talk is going to be extremely interesting and also inspiring, and people who have gone through this journey and they are in the beginning phase of this journey. So I am probably coming to the end of my career, and I probably share a couple of experiences as to why I feel and why I took on this medicine as my career. I wanted to become an engineer when I started. I had a passion for becoming a mechanical engineer, and I wanted to be an expert in automobiles, and that's how I started when I was 16 years old. And my father, who passed away last year, said, there is no one in medicine in your family, Raghu, and I want you to do this. So after a lot of deliberation, we are not allowed to talk against your parents. I don't know about things now, but those days when we were growing up, we had to follow what our parents said. So I took it on, and I have not regretted it one bit. And the reason why I've not regretted it so far, and I probably won't, is the difference I make. When I started my career as a doctor, healing people on an individual basis, and as I grew in my career, I felt that I can make a difference, not to one-to-one on my patients, but I can scale it up to develop, design, implement changes at a larger scale. And when you do that, a lot of patients get benefit out of what you do. And when you go back and think about all you've done, and I have moved hospitals as a result of my career and my moves in management, and I often visit back some of the places I have been through, and I can see the legacy I've left behind. At the end of your journey in your life, you ask yourself, what is the legacy you leave behind? And I think medicine gives you the opportunity for people to think about you, to people, the difference you've made in their life to them. And that's one of the most noble profession you can think of. And you must be proud. And the fact that you've all attending today to know more about it and possibly pursue actively in your career tells me that I think there is a lot of inspiration here to go down that route. Some of them may be thinking about it's a career with finances, stable finances. And I can promise you that is one of the things that does keep your finances and your family life going. But that is not the intent of medicine. Intent of medicine is to heal people. And money will follow if you do a good job at it. And most of us who have come to this country have realized this. So without any further delay, I think there are plenty of opportunities to, when you do become a doctor and pursue a career in whatever subspecialties, and it's a lifelong journey, and you've taken the first step in a journey of 1,000 miles. I wish you all the best. And if there are any questions, please pass this through Elil, and we will try and answer it. And opportunities, if people are looking for opportunities outside for clinical experience, work experience, please get in touch with us. We will be able to organize some of this. Elil, I'm going to hand it back to you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Raghu. You are an inspiring person, and I would also say to people that even after you graduate, Raghu is there to mentor you. He will advise you for any help throughout your career. And by the way, he's also very successful. I was told he has a big swimming pool in his home, so doctors can be rich as well. And thanks to share your inspiring information about your father. I'm sorry to hear the news. Anyway, thanks Raghu. Next, we move on to our next speaker. It is Samriddhi. Samriddhi is a very enthusiastic second-year medical student at Newcastle University. She attended our mock interview a few years ago, found it useful, and she has come back successfully as a medical student now to volunteer her time as an examiner and a speaker. She enjoys teaching, and she did it from her school days and was an academic mentor in her sixth form. So over to you, Samriddhi.
Oh, hi. Okay, thank you very much. As already been mentioned, I am a second-year medical student at Newcastle University. So it wasn't too long ago that I was in the same position as you guys, and I know how difficult it can be to get into medicine. It is kind of like jumping through hoops to try and become successful. But hopefully this presentation will help shed some light on how to get into UK universities. So before I even start, I wanted to ask, what do you guys think that medical schools look for in applicants? Feel free to unmute or even write in the chat box. I'm not sure if I can see the chat box though. Okay, I'm not sure if anyone's written anything in the chat box, but just some things that I came up myself. Things like empathy, communication, problem solving, and teamwork. So I think it's quite important to start thinking about some attributes from now, because we need to start thinking about things that we need to improve on ourselves in order to be ready for applications. So it's important to start thinking about our strengths and weaknesses from now. So this is just kind of like a timeline of what I think is the most important things to think about each year. So from year 10, I think definitely at your stage, the most important thing to think about is why you want to do medicine. I'm not going to delve into this too much because I do know there will be other speakers speaking about this in more detail. But I think that was the main thing I was thinking about in year 10 and 11. And along with this, I think it's important to explore some backup options such as biochemistry and pharmacology in case you decide that medicine may not be for you. It's also important to look at some ways to enhance your application. So this can be things like extracurriculars, maybe music, sports, or work experience and volunteering. I will talk about this in a bit more depth in a minute. And also some leadership opportunities, maybe mentoring or some kind of leadership opportunity from school. Then year 11, I think I started exploring some university options. Now, this is by no means having like a hard and fast option, but it's more to think about having a browse and what you think you might be, which university you might like. And this will also inform your A-level options because, of course, every university has different requirements. Again, we're thinking about these application enhancers that I mentioned from year 10. A lot of them will be long-term, such as volunteering. And then at the end of year 11, of course, you've got your GCSEs. Then we come on to year 12. This will probably be the busiest and probably, in my opinion, this was my hardest year, just because of the sheer number of things you have to think about and things you have to do. So by year 12, you'll probably be narrowing down your university options to your top 4 or 5. Again, you'll have more opportunity to do some work experience and maybe some better application enhancer opportunities, such as becoming a head girl or maybe a prefect. Then year 12 summer is quite important in terms of entrance exams. So this will be Ucat or Bmat. And this, again, varies depending on the university. And then last but not least, I guess year 12 summer, you also have your personal statement drafts. Start of year 13 is also quite hectic. So again, this will all be your Ucas, finishing off your personal statements. And medicine is early application. So you do have to get your Ucas in earlier than some other courses. And hopefully your Ucas applications will be successful, leading to interviews and offers. And then at the end, the dreaded A-level exams. Again, this is what I was thinking about. At your stage, I was thinking about why medicine is for me. Again, I'm not going to dwell on this too much. But if we look at the academic side, the Gcse requirements are a minimum of a 6, but successful candidates will score higher, around 7 to 9. This is really good because you'll feel more comfortable. If you do well at GCSE, you'll definitely feel more comfortable at A-level. And I also know that some universities have a scoring system. So for example, Manchester have a scoring system for their GCSEs, which they'll use alongside Ucas and personal statement to see who they want to bring in for an interview. Again, A-level subjects, so all universities require chemistry. Some require biology, but I highly recommend doing biology. As I have some friends who didn't take biology and really struggled the first year of medicine because a lot of it is, of course, biology based. The third A-level is your choice. So most people do go for another science. So this will broaden your university options the most. But you can also go for a humanity. And I think this will also really diversify your application. And last but not least, I wanted to talk about some enhancers. Now, these aren't compulsory and universities don't necessarily look for them, but EPQ and perspectives on science, they are quite good to talk about in personal statements and interview. They are basically dissertation-based courses which last about a year, so they're equivalent to an AS. And you just talk about a medical topic of your choice and write a dissertation on it. So that can also be quite good. So now I want to talk a bit about work experience, because I think while we focus quite a lot on academics, work experience is just as important. So first of all, it will inform whether you'll either enjoy a career in medicine, and for medical schools, it shows your commitment and dedication. Now, I know this is probably a bad time to talk about work experience considering the current situation of COVID-19, but I did want to talk about it just because you do have a couple of years before you're going to apply. So hopefully as restrictions die down, you will have more of an opportunity to gain some work experience. So just some places you could choose from range from like hospital, GP, I know St. John's Ambulance is also quite big. But my biggest piece of advice for finding work experience, especially if you don't have any medical contacts, is don't give up if you can't find a placement immediately. And this is because it does take quite a lot of effort to organize work experience for yourself. Can take quite a lot of months of emailing and phone calls, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So the most important thing about work experience is what you take away from it. And this is all based on reflection. So not only will this be important in personal statements and interviews, but within the medical profession itself, all doctors have to reflect all the time. So, you know, if you get good at it now, you'll be pros by the time you're doctors. So for me, I think the best way to do some reflection is have a reflective diary. So this can just be at the end of after you've done some work experience, I would write about what I learned, what insights it gave me into the medical profession, and how it informed my choice to apply to medicine. So I've got just kind of an example reflection, just something I wrote up quite quick of kind of a good example of how to reflect. So you start by contextualizing what you did. So I spent a week shadowing some junior doctors in general surgery. Then you can talk about what you saw. So I saw some morning ward rounds and some surgical procedures. And then you finish off with your reflection, and this will generally be your biggest portion. So I learned about not only the role of surgeons, but also the role of supporting theatre staff. And through this, I understood the importance of the multidisciplinary team and the sheer number of healthcare professionals responsible for one patient. And of course, you can go on to talk about more things that you've learned about maybe some of the procedures or from the ward round. But this is just kind of like a general structure of how you should maybe be reflecting at the end of work experience day. I also wanted to quickly touch on volunteering because I know it can be really difficult to find work experience in a medical place. So I know I volunteered at a library for a couple months, and it was definitely not a medical environment, but it helps you gain some other transferable skills which you might not in a medical environment. And especially at your age, you may not be allowed to maybe converse with different people. So I definitely learned a lot of different things from volunteering as well. And this is generally long-term. So you have you have more time to kind of build these skills, such as building rapport, empathizing with other people. But yes, I think that's everything. This was just kind of like a short intro on how to some of the important things, especially for me. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or any feedback, please do let me know.
Okay, thanks, Samriddhi. Thanks for your excellent presentation. If you have any questions, please type in the chat box, and Samriddhi will be available at the end of the talk, probably in about 60 to 90 minutes time. Then we'll have a session. Is that okay? We now next go on to our next speaker. It's Dr. Raji Anand. She is a GP in Bradford. She's a trainer and enjoys teaching. Perhaps it comes from her family, as her both parents are university physics professors. Over to you, Raji.
Hello, everybody. I'm Raji Anand. I'm here to kind of give you a brief outline about why somebody needs to choose medicine. It's kind of at the age of maybe even 15, 16, and 17. It can be a very daunting process about a career choice that might be that you have to is going to be a lifelong choice. And so it's not going to be actually a speech, but a general talk to you about what kind of offers that medicine can give you as a profession. And I'm just going to very briefly touch on that journey because there will be many more speakers who will be able to give one of the most highly employable profession that anybody can choose from. Say, for example, as a graduate, once you finish graduation, not every graduate will be able to get a job, but medicine is a profession wherein once you are a graduate, you have a job for a lifetime, more or less, unless you want to take a career break. So that is, I would say, is the reason one can choose to be a doctor. And moving on, apart from obviously employability, it's just not employable. So if you look at it, medicine has the most wide range of and broad range of from. It can be anywhere between a pediatrician, a neurosurgeon, it can be a general practitioner. So there are umpty number of choices that you can choose from. And medicine has one of the respected profession in the society. At this point in time where we are in a COVID pandemic, you can imagine where we will be if we don't have health professionals, doctors as such, to treat the patients. So, and moving on, then it is one of the most highly caring profession. You are there to alleviate somebody's pain and suffering. What more can a job offer to you? It is one of the most immensely satisfying experience and highly gratifying and fulfilling to be in a place where you can actually help somebody solve their problems and their pain and suffering. So a lot of students and parents too ask this next question. So what gains? So obviously you're putting all this effort into getting into medicine. So where do I stand financially? Which is rightfully, you need to make that decision based on that too. You are paying a lot of time and effort into it. So what gains do I have? What kind of reaping benefits can I get? Say, for example, any graduate in UK starts when they come out of university can aim to get somewhere between 22 to 25K as their annual salary. But when you, as a FY1 graduate, you start at a scale of 28 as per K as an annual salary. FY2 moves on to 32 and so on. And as your profession kind of carries on with your seniority and the length of your service, you continue to earn more. And once you complete your degree of certification, you become a consultant. Say, for example, you can be earning anywhere between 85 to 90K. So some of the children, if your parents are already doctors and you didn't know how much they are earning, there you go. So, and it can actually go up further than 100K too, depending on your length of service. So it is highly rewarding profession, not only as a fulfilling career, but financially too. It gives you a lot of standing and stability. So leaders are born, but leadership, if you have an innate ability to be a leader, then medicine gives you a great platform to be on, because you will be a team leader one point or another throughout your profession. You are the responsible medical officer. So if you have the innate ability, the aptitude to be a leader, medicine is certainly for you. So that lends into what other opportunities does it give? Apart from obviously going into various clinical aspects of medicine, it gives you a brilliant platform to go into diverse other opportunities. You can go into medico-legal work. You can go into research. I studied from Madras Medical College, which is a premier institution in Chennai. And so many of my classmates have moved on from medicine to go on to other things. Somebody is a research scientist in Australia with the COVID vaccine team. Someone has done an MBA and currently working with a pharmaceutical company in Austria. He's heading an Austria branch of a pharmaceutical industry. Somebody has moved into artificial intelligence, which is huge. It's just going to be huge in future, and he's in California. So thereby, medicine offers you a great deal of prospectus, and thereby it lends into international travel too. So if you're a person who is wanting to travel, enjoy, explore different aspects of globe, so there it is. So thereby medicine offers you are spoiled for choice. So if you choose medicine as a career, so I think most of the other candidates here and other people who are following on, I will be able to give you a lot more insight into the journey to becoming a doctor, In fact, they were sitting on the other end listening to such lectures, and here they are to give you their view, their insights into how to become a doctor, that starting the journey. So I will pass on to the next candidate. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Raji. That was quite an informative talk. There are about 200 people who are watching live this event. We have had a very good response. What we are going to do, we are going to post it as a file on YouTube as well. Even if you missed it, you can watch it later on. So our next speaker is Megan. Megan Hodge is a bright young student who is doing year 1 medicine in Cambridge. So she is going to talk to us about the process. She also has written a short book, I would call a guidebook, applying to medicine, and she'll be sharing it with others in future. Over to you, Megan.
Hi, let me just share my screen. So getting into Cambridge. So I just firstly want to take the opportunity, because I was on the other side last year and attended the interview process and this course, but from the other perspective, and just to thank you all for how helpful it was. And I don't think I'd have gotten in without it. So the application process to Cambridge is very similar to the application process at all the other medical universities, but there are a few differences. So you follow the same format as the personal statement, the BMAT. Then there's also the SAQ, interviews, and then offers are announced. So just to touch on each stage briefly. So within the personal statement, the kind of things you need to include are once again very similar to all the other universities, but one thing they're very keen on is this thing that they call supercurricular activities, which is like extracurricular activities. So it's stuff you do outside of your normal lessons and your normal education, but that supplement your curriculum. So a good example of this is probably something like the EPQ, or just reading extra material around. So reading studies, reading reports, just getting involved in your subject, getting involved in medicine as much as you can in an academic way, in order to show that you are interested and this is something you want to do, because the medical course here is more academically orientated than at other universities. So it's showing why that specific academic style of medicine suits you better and why you specifically want to do that. But an important thing is to note, don't just list the books you've read, don't just list the things you've done. It's important to show, as was mentioned in previous talks, reflect on it. What have you learned? What did that cause you to do differently? What would this make you want to look into in the future? What did you gain from that? So linking things and integrating these different parts are very key. Onto the BMAT. I'll go back to the SAQ firstly, actually. So the SAQ is the Supplementary Additional Questionnaire, and it's something you have to fill in as part of your application for here. And it's just kind of like a personal statement, but more guided. So there's more guided questions there that are trying to find out more about you and more about what you've done in order to just help with your application. Onto the BMAT. So my main advice for BMAT, section 1 is critical thinking. So firstly, if your school has any optional, because I know my school offered an optional critical thinking course kind of in lunchtimes and frees. If your school offers anything like that, absolutely do it 100%. It's the most helpful thing you can do. But besides that, just reading critical thinking books, and there are kind of guides online and websites that will help you out with that, and looking at the past papers, and all the questions follow the same kind of basic format. So if you do enough of the practice questions, you'll learn. There isn't really like a content specification, but there's just core skills to learn, and doing as many practice papers as you can is going to help you learn those core skills. So all the practice papers are on the BMAT website. So this, for the science section, which is the second section, I don't think many people seem to know this when we did it in our year, but there is a specification online of the core content they can cover. And the important thing to note is that it only covers GCSE level content because you sit it in year 12. No, you sit it at the beginning of year 13, but it can't cover A-level content because you haven't finished your A-levels yet. But to note that it can cover GCSE content from any exam board. So even if you're doing just double science, the dual award, it can cover anything in any of the triple award specifications. So to take a good look at the specification they provide online and highlight any points that you haven't covered in your GCSE specification, and either look at them yourself or ask teachers at school to go through them with you. Section 3 is the one that most people find most daunting, which is the essay. The key with this essay is that you only get given one side of A4 paper, and that's it. So kind of learning to be really concise and clear in what you're saying and what you're trying to argue, and that you still have, I think it's about an hour to do this essay section, so there's plenty of time to plan it through properly and make sure you know what you're writing and how you're going to write it before you even begin to put pen to paper, because there's no going back once you've done that. In all 3 of these sections, practice is absolutely key. So with the first 2 sections, the past papers are available online with the mark schemes, and if the mark schemes don't provide worked answers, but worked answers are available on the internet, or once again ask your teachers for help, or just anyone around you to help, so your parents might be able to help you, or just anyone that you know. The other key thing is that in all 3 of the sections, in the first 2 sections, you're very, very pushed for time. So maybe the first couple of past papers practice in an untimed fashion just to kind of get the hang of what you're doing and how it goes. But then I'd really start pushing yourself with setting the same time limits you'll have in the actual exam, because that's the reason you're going to drop marks, and that's the reason you're going to struggle, is because of the time pressure on you rather than the content itself. The interview. So most people find this incredibly daunting, but the key thing to remember is that they're not expecting you to know the answers, and they will push you until you, so even if you know the answers to the first questions and the first topics you're talking about, they'll continue to push you until you reach topics you don't know the answers in, because they're trying to test your suitability for the way they teach here in kind of small group seminars where they're called supervisions, but it's kind of usually 4 of you with one kind of tutor professor who's questioning you and really digging down into the concepts. Important things to remember is that if you don't say it out loud, they don't know what you're thinking. So it's important to, if they ask you a question, do take a second to pause and kind of get your bearings on it, but think the process out loud so they can understand your thinking process, where you're going, and they can jump in to prompt you and push you in the right directions. And don't be afraid to ask for help, because they are there ultimately in your course to teach you, not just test you. So it's kind of meant to be more of an interaction between the 2 of you, and just, once again, testing your suitability for their learning style. And all these tips do also apply to the interviews at other medical universities, but are kind of Cambridge specific. So that's getting into Cambridge and the process. So my email and my phone number at the bottom, because I don't think I can stay for the Q&A, but if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or message me on WhatsApp. I can also advise or answer questions on applying to other medical schools, because I did also apply to other medical schools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Megan. That was quite interesting and useful, and thanks for volunteering to come over despite your busy schedule. Thank you very much. Next, we go on to our next speaker is Abhi. Abhishek is a year 1 medical student at Peninsula Medical School in Plymouth. I would say he's a very, very hardworking and very student who is interested in, again, giving back to the community. He is keen to take part in other extracurricular activities. He is a long way from home. His parents are in Yorkshire and he's down south in Plymouth. I'm sure he will be missing his parents and vice versa. Over to you, Abhi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anand. I'll just share the screen now. I hope everyone can see my screen. So good afternoon, everyone. My name's Abhi, and I'm a first-year medical student at the Peninsula Medical School. So before I begin, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the organisers for allowing me to share my thoughts. Because as about a year or two ago, I was sitting where you guys are as an aspiring medical student. So my presentation is on extracurricular activities and why they're important to get into med school. So the way I see it is your grades is your ticket to be considered and to be accepted. But what actually adds value to your application is your extracurricular activities. So over the course of my presentation, I'm going to be discussing these areas. So a little bit about myself. So as you're already aware, I am a first year medic. But during high school and A-levels, I thrived off extracurricular activities. Between year 7 to 11, I was the student rep and I was in student decision-making bodies. I furthered this by applying and successfully becoming the youth MP for my local area. Furthermore, during A-levels, I was the head boy for my school. Doing all these activities and many more, such as like the volunteering vocational activities I've done, has really evolved my personality to make me the very individual I am today. So these skills made me grow. So by doing extracurricular activities, you will grow as a person too. So where did I apply? I applied to Leeds, Plymouth, Brighton and Sussex, and Queen's Belfast. When I applied, I was very aware of the rankings and everything else, and I told myself that every medical school is amazing in its own right. So I never looked at the rankings, I never looked at the league tables. I looked at what medical school would suit me and suit my application to the best of its ability. So these are the basic academic criteria. So you need a minimum of grade 6 in maths and sciences, but however most people, as already mentioned, will get more than that. They will probably get grade 7s, 8s and 9s. Personally, when I did my GCSEs, it was back in the day when it was A's and A stars, I had mostly A's and a few A stars. A-levels. For A-levels, you need to do, most universities will be open to you if you do biology and chemistry together. That said, some universities require one science. For example, the University of Plymouth don't actually require chemistry, they require biology or chemistry. So I do advise you to really look into the university you want to go to and look at what their specific requirements are. Because some people think that if they don't do chemistry or they're not able to do a chemistry at A-level, they will miss out. That's not 100% true, but to be on the safer side, if you can, do biology and chemistry together. Most successful candidates will get around AAA, but depending to your circumstances and depending on the med school, you could potentially get in with AAB. The entrance exams, so most med schools require to either do the Ucat or Bmat, and last year's average was 2.557, and the average for Bmat is around 5 and a 3 in the writing task. But don't worry too much about those entrance exams criteria because some universities have their own set of guidelines and it could be lower or it could be higher. So I wouldn't worry about it too much because when I did my entrance exams, it was nowhere near close to those grades and it was just about enough to meet the university's requirements. So I wouldn't get too stressed about that. So now the main part of my presentation. Why should we do extracurricular activities and what do you actually learn from it? So extracurricular activities can range from voluntary work, leadership positions, summer courses, sports or particular hobby. The importance of this is that these are the skills you need as a doctor or you need as a medical student. It's not something you can make notes on or watch YouTube videos on or just revise for. You can only develop yourself further by actually doing it, getting involved and learning from what you're already taking part in. So by this, I mean that when you go to your interviews, everyone's going to have something or another to make them stand out. So this is the one time I'm going to say, The only acceptable time to be selfish is at your interviews. It's make yourself shine. It doesn't matter if you're like, you know, a national level badminton player or like you just play for the cricket team for your local school. That doesn't matter. What you do doesn't matter. It's what you learn from extracurricular activities and how it's made you into a better person and how it's made you more suited to what you're doing today. From these extracurricular activities, you should expect to learn skills like teamwork, communication, leadership, empathy, and a compassionate nature. By doing this, you're telling the university, yes, you already do have the academic requirements because you've passed that stage, but you also have a whole holistic nature. So you're a well-rounded individual. You're not just an academic geek, or you're not just really sporty, but you have the appetite to be a balanced individual. And this is key. Most universities are looking for people who can add value to the university and be a good doctor and a good medical student at the same time. So I'd highly recommend looking into at least one or two of these opportunities in your local area. You don't have to do all of them by any means, but anything you enjoy from that. The sequences of organising work experiences / your volunteering. First, if you can, ask family or friends, because that can take some stress away, and normally it's a little bit easier because it can guide through the process. If not, because my parents weren't doctors as well, and no one in my immediate family were in the medical profession, you can ask your school. My school organised some work experience interviews so that there's an interview process before you got selected for work experience. Or for what actually worked for my case was the volunteering opportunities. Because I had volunteered so much, worked with local charities and local counsellors, decision makers, I was able to get the opportunity to get some work experience. So by volunteering early and widening your network and just making rapport with people, that can work in your favour. So that's why I'm stressing the fact that volunteer, work with people around you and get to know people and add to society. And by doing that, it's only going to help you out. If not, you can use social media. Sometimes on social media, there are volunteering opportunities available, sometimes on Facebook and Instagram, things like that. Or if you want to, you can write to your local hospital or GP. But for that, I'd say apply early because a lot of people may be doing that. So here's like my tips, summary page and personal insight. I'm sure that most of you around your GCSE A-level marks. So I'd say focus on your science and maths subjects and start developing a passion for that. That's if you're already naturally interested, of course, and I'm sure you must be. So carry out some wider reading, read like the New Scientist, the other journals, or if you're not much of a reading person, try and watch some documentaries or have a look on social media and things like that, or blogs and stuff. If your school is quite difficult now, but when it is possible, go and look into science clubs at school. I often did that. I went to science clubs, did presentations, worked with teams, worked with other people. That really does benefit you. Volunteer it wherever possible. Even at university now, I know just studying medicine isn't enough to be a good doctor. I take the opportunity and grasp it to volunteer wherever possible, because it's really going to develop you and help you as a person, because no one's ever perfect at any of the skills. You can only ever get better at it. So volunteer wherever you can. Show your passion for medicine and be engaging with your teachers. Your teachers are really going to help you out. So the earlier you know and the earlier you commit to medicine, start engaging with your teachers and the loved ones around you and ask for their help. Decide early as possible. That will really help you out and save you a lot of stress, so you have a specific focus in mind. Once you have committed, have faith in yourself. And the golden 3 words I cannot stress enough is commitment, perseverance, and resilience. You're going to have your up days, you're going to have your down days, and you're going to face a lot of hurdles and setbacks. I faced so many setbacks, but what you need to do is have faith in yourself. I say this because I actually had to do a foundation year as well, so because I didn't get the right grades at A-level. But what saved me during getting into medicine is I had a lot of extracurricular activities which came through at the interview, and it allowed the interviews to give me a higher mark and give me a good mark so they could select me for this foundation year. But if I wouldn't have done the extracurricular activities I did and learned the skills I have had done, then that means I wouldn't have been in the position here today. So please do engage, please take part in all the opportunities available, and never ever lose faith. Have a family and friendship support group. I'd just like to take the opportunity now that I never actually valued my family as much as I should have done during the process, because sometimes it's natural as teenagers, you think, oh, what your parents saying is really annoying, but it's not. Your family's acting for your best interest, ranging from your uncle or your dad helping out with interview questions, or to your mum cooking dinner for you. You know, everything's helping you to succeed towards getting into med school, because they're just trying their best way possible to help you get in. So work with them, don't work against them. They are there for you. And with that, try to have a really close network of friends who can help you through the process, either applying to be medics or not. However, be careful with that one, because sometimes some of your friends can come across the wrong way and it could really demotivate you. It's really inadvertent. They don't mean to, but sometimes it could really affect your confidence. So be really careful. So I'd advise during the application process, don't talk much or don't stress your friends out too much, and just try to relax. I know it's hard to say, it's hard to do than it actually is to say, but just relax if possible. Ignore the hate around you. You'll have one or two people around who may say, oh, you might not get in, or you will get in, or not be confident on you. That doesn't matter. As long as you're confident in yourself and you have people around you who are confident in you, like your parents, you will get in. Just work hard and it will all work out. Don't worry if you face setbacks. Don't worry if you don't do well at one stage. It doesn't matter. Everyone applying to medicine has their strong point. Focus on your strong point and see through the stuff which you're not good at. You know, like how they say in cricket, see through the fast ballers, because they're obviously like the scary ones. Do the same thing here. See through the stuff which scares you and smash out the stuff which you're actually good at. Have faith in yourself. Finally, I'd just like to say good luck and my heartiest best wishes. And please don't feel afraid to contact me or anyone else, because I would love to help you and love to support you throughout your journey. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Abhi. Abhi will be there at the end to answer all your queries if you have any. And also, Abhi has volunteered to help out any one-to-one after this. And also, if any of the GCSE's A-level students wants one-to-one tutoring, he, along with a few others, as I said earlier, Samriddhi, Aditya, Karthi, and few others are willing to help out. Okay, we next go on to our next speaker, Dr. Kumar Mahari. Kumar is a person whom I had known for a long time. He is from Malaysia, studied in India, traveled all over the world, and currently a GP partner in Huddersfield in Yorkshire in UK. He has a wide experience. He's a badminton player and also a fun person to be with. So you can still be a doctor and have fun. Over to you, Kumar.
Thank you, Elil. Hope you all can hear me. Thanks, Elil, for the very colorful introduction. As you know, I have known Elil for a long time, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on this evening. Good evening, everyone. I'll just put my slides on before I go on further. Okay. Yeah. Now, I've agreed to speak on this topic, the medical school admission journey. But before I go on to speak, I just want to tell all of you all why I actually chose to speak on this topic. Simply because this journey is actually a very long-winded, arduous journey. And I do hope whatever tips I give you all today will make this journey much more simply for all you candidates who are trying to get into medical school. And again, in regard to the journey, I want to verify what I mean by a journey. It's the journey which you will take from the day you start to prepare to get into medical school till you actually get an offer in the medical school. So that may mean it could be when you started off at high school, or maybe after GCSEs or before your GCSEs. So it is a long journey, but if you do it properly, you will actually get the best outcome of all this. So where do you start? And some people will say, do I start when I'm in high school. Some people will say, do I start before GCSE or do I start after GCSE? Now, it's very important to keep your energies all the time and not to actually fade off, because if you start too early, you will sometimes fade off. So it's important to get it the right time. Personally, my advice is to start your journey after GCSEs, simply because you will have more choices in terms of your A-level subjects. And plus, I think if I'm not mistaken, there is a limit on how long you can use up your work placements which you have done. If you've done it 5 years ago, it may not be considered. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 years, and that's all you can use. So be a bit careful when you start and how soon you start, because starting too early is not too good. So moving on, I will try not to duplicate what other speakers have already said, and I'll try and make it simple and succinct. Now, what placements do I do? Now, it's important that you focus on the quality of the placement rather than the quantity of placement. If I can be very honest, all you need to do is one placement and do it to a high level and get good reflection points like the other speakers have just mentioned, rather than doing 10 placements and not getting any reflection points. And it's important when you do the placements, you do actually write reflection points and reflection notes so that you will remember on the day when you actually are there that what you actually done, because it's easy to actually forget. So just to emphasize, is quality over quantity regard to your work placements. And going on to the next slide is, what do I need? I think there are some initial prerequisites. Without doubt, I think you do need grades. And I think if you do not have grades, most of you guys won't be actually be in this seminar, because I'm sure most of you all are very bright students. But as a minimum, you do need 3 A's to get into med school. Now, don't ever forget good references from your college tutors. And this is only more important in this day and age, in the current COVID situation, because lots of your grades are not going to be from A-levels results like what happened the previous year. It's reference from your college tutors is very important. So it's highly important, more so now, for you to perform well in all your little exams in your college days. What about Ucat and Bmat? As you know, it's an important test as an entrance exam. Obviously, the higher you score, you will actually get yourself into more opportunities and more universities. Some universities do give more predominance to UCAT. For example, Newcastle like high UCAT results, while some other unis like Bristol and Kiel you don't require as much UCAT results. So they all vary. So it's very important to read each university's website. I can't emphasize more on the quality of personal statement, which, as I said, start early, don't leave it till the end, and make sure you get a good one as part of the application. Now, I often get asked this question, do I need to do an EPQ? Do I need to do things like Duke of Edinburgh? Now, there's no harm in having them, but the way medical school admissions are made these days is actually fairly straightforward. You don't necessarily need all these EPQs and the fourth subject. If you have 3 A's, you are in and you have cleared the academic hurdle. So see what you like. Don't exhaust your energy in wanting to do all these extra things, because you got to be focused on what you want to get. So I'll move on a bit more. Candidate qualities. Without doubt, as I told you earlier, you do need academic ability. Now, the next point, which I said, perseverance. I think the previous speaker, Abhishek, mentioned about perseverance. I cannot emphasize more how important perseverance is, because from the time you put your application in October till your offers come out in early January, February, there's lots of things going on. You're preparing for your interviews, you are studying for your A levels. It's hard going. So you've got to be focused, you've got to persevere and just keep going. Don't let all the setbacks let you down, because you may get 1 or 2 interview results which may not be in your favor. It can be very demoralizing. So perseverance and being focused is absolute necessity for you as part of this journey. And if I put it at the end, do not ever neglect your revision, because whilst you're preparing for interviews, it's often some candidates neglect their revision, and ultimately, if you don't get your grades in August, you will not get your place. So keep your revision going and don't neglect that. Yeah. Bit on MMIs. Now, most universities still use MMIs. The thing which is a bit different this year is it's going to be a virtual MMI. I haven't got experience in this, and I don't think so many of you all do. It's all going to be new, but I'll just tell you a bit about MMIs. Now, why were MMIs initiated? I think for the simple reason, the MMI is very specifically wanting to test one quality. Each station which you go into will test you on one quality. Let it be communication skill, let it be resilience, or work experience. So remember, each station you go into, they are trying to look at one specific quality. And what do they look for you in an MMI? Do not appear rehearsed, because it's something the examiners can pick up very easily. Even if you know your answers, try and speak a bit more casually. You must be a balanced speaker and you must be an analytical thinker. If you start rattling down your answers, they will find out. So be calm. And I've put a note there is, before you answer a question, think before you talk. Don't rattle, because that doesn't help. And of course, I can't emphasize more on things like body language and eye contact is absolutely crucial. And you must remember to look ahead and have the right body language. Look happy, don't look upset, because all these little things do actually add on to how you perform. So moving on to the next, I've put this slide on just for your information. If you look at all these pointers here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pointers there. These are exactly the points your examiners can test you on. So for example, empathy, resilience, personal integrity, dealing with uncertainty. So this is a good slide for you to hold on to, for you to see what are the stations which people can test you on. If you want, I'm happy to share this slide to you later on if you want me to. And then finally, my last slide is, sorry, this slide's a bit small. Again, it's a chart which tells you what are the stations they can test you on, right from breaking bad news, NHS hot topics, data interpretation, role play, teamwork, work experience, problem solving, and ethical scenarios. So this is just a gist of the different stations they can test you on. And that's it really. So is there anything else you all want to clarify or speak to me about or seek clarification? Feel free to message me and I'll be more than happy to give as much feedback as I can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kumar. We will have time at the end, but if people who are on the Zoom call, I mean, there are about, as I said, 200 people watching it live, but only 100 people on this Zoom call. So if you are on this call and if you have any queries, please type it in the chat box. Samriddhi, Karthi and others will be able to answer you on the chat box. And if we have time, we will also do it verbally at the end. Also, if you want to, we don't want to finish the event for just now. We want to continue. Obviously, we have limitations as well. We are doing this as a voluntary activity. We are all professionals with our day job. We will do it again next year. But in between, we do have a specific WhatsApp group where you can post and help each other. To be on that group, please contact me, Dr. Anand, on 07795176879. So if you WhatsApp me, I will include you in the group. I will also text my number in the post the number in the group. Okay, we will move on to our next speaker. Aditya is a year 2 medical student in Nottingham. He is fortunate in a way that he is doing placements in the same hospital where he was born. He has helped many people to apply in the right university. And I also came to know through his mother that he is enjoying his student life in the student city of Nottingham despite the lockdown. Over to you, Aditya.
Hi everyone, my name's Aditya Anand and I'm a second year medical student at the University of Nottingham. And when people think about the application process, they tend to think about A-levels, GCSEs and the academic side of it, which is very important. But I wanted to talk today about one of the parts of the process that is quite often overlooked, and it's about applying to medical schools based on your strengths and weaknesses. So when I applied for medical school 2 years ago, I received all 4 of my offers, and I think that was partly down to the way in which I applied strategically. So first and foremost, I think spending some time just after you sit the UK CAT is really crucial, because by that point you would have got your GCSE results and your UK CAT score, which predominantly for all medical schools, they're going to be the 2 factors which they use when calling people for interview. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good your GCSEs or UK CAT are, because each uni has a very specific admissions policy. So, for example, when I applied to Manchester 2 years ago, they clearly stated on their website that if you had a UK CAT score in the top 3 deciles, you're virtually guaranteed an interview. So UK CAT deciles are published around October, and I know Sheffield, Newcastle and Manchester, they use these deciles when deciding who to call for an interview. So I think, like Karthi said, being really proactive, once you've done your UK CAT, that's very good. But then from there, you have to think, which 4 medical schools am I most likely to receive an interview from? So most medical schools do clearly state what they're looking for in each candidate on their website. So keep updated with scoring documents that are available online. So I remember Leicester had a very clear page on their application process for how they score and select people. Some universities are quite UK CAT heavy, some are GCSE heavy, some are a mix of both, and also some require the BMAT. And that's why it's so important to apply based on the strengths in your application, because some of my friends had really good GCSEs and then applied to medical schools that required a high UK CAT score. Similarly, some of my other friends had low GCSEs but a good UK CAT score but didn't make use of that. So I think based on what the strengths are in your application, you need to apply based on that. Many universities are very transparent and they lay out their application process very clearly. For example, Sheffield University, their Dean of Medicine is really active on the student room. So he's always sending students messages, asking them what to do if they want to come to Sheffield, for example. Other universities don't necessarily indicate as much on their websites, but they leave the email for their admissions team on their website. So also emailing the admissions team, if you have any doubts, definitely sending them an email. I think making use of open days is also something that's very useful, as current students there can tell you about the specific application process for that medical school. So, for example, one of the seniors at my school, he's now in 3rd year at Nottingham and he went to my school. So even to now, I'm able to always get as much help from him as I can. And yeah, just in general, you need to choose the 4 medical schools where you're most likely to receive an interview from. I know there's a bit of people want to apply to, okay, if there's a nice city or how good the nightlife is, whatever. I can understand that as well. But I think it's fundamental to remember that each medical school requires different achievements. and to apply based on that.
Okay, we now move on to our next speaker, Dr. Rama Narasimhan, who was trained in India and also in US, and currently a senior consultant at Apollo Hospital in Chennai. She is a medical advisor and a panel physician for the US Consulate, High Commission in Canada, UK, and other countries. She is going to speak about an interesting topic. As we all know, there are some students who have studied in India and other countries and wanted to do medicine in UK. She's going to share her experience as a parent as well as an experienced clinician. Over to you, Rama.
Thanks, Errol. I think this is a great endeavor, and I'm going to try and share my slides now. Is it coming on?
Yes.
Oh, great. So first of all, one of the disclaimers I would like to put on is, really not being a tiger mom or a helicopter mom. I think my daughter, her career choice is primarily based on what job could she choose to, which involves helping people. So I think as students and parents, it's important to think if you are choosing a career path that's right for you. I think a lot of speakers ahead of us have emphasized that. Once you pick a place that's outside of your common place of living or the system that you're familiar with, it becomes a little bit difficult for the student who's also sitting so many exams. And it's all right, I think, for some parents to sort of get involved and figure out what the process might demand of you. So I think you want to. I think as parents, one thing that you could do to help your kid is to look up the complete list of colleges. For us, for me, if you were to ask me any program in the States, not only can I list it out, I would be familiar with them. I could tell you the strengths and weaknesses. I can tell you if other things besides a college. Is the neighborhood safe? Is the quality of life good? So we'd probably want to look at so many different criteria. But if it's a complete new lay of the land, I think we're sort of at a loss. So there's a steep learning curve, which I think is hard for the student to sort of pick up on. And even as you keep researching as a parent, you might not be aware of a lot of different things. So I think that you would start by looking up at the complete list of colleges, figuring out, so there's a website that I used, which is basically government sponsored in the UK, I suppose. And each school has a very detailed entry requirement. You'll find that some of them do accept international students, but not necessarily from particular countries, or they might be more favorable towards other countries than some. So I think knowledge is power. You need to empower yourself with as much information as you can get. So you want to also familiarize yourself and set the deadlines in your mind. So my child took the SATs as well, because that was the original plan, was for her to go back to the States from where we are. But she was extremely encumbered and discouraged with the fact that she would have to do a pre-medicine course for 3 or 4 years. And so it was a complete course correction on her part to decide to take on the UK exams, and it was a very last minute thing. So it's important to now look at the deadlines for all other courses besides medicine. The deadline is December, but for medicine alone, it's the October the 15th of the year 12 for your student or your child. So depending on the curriculum of the child that your child is enrolled in and which part of the world you live in, you will have to look into resources that can guide you. Most of the universities are very clear in telling you what kinds of curricula from different countries they would accept. In addition to the Ucat and the Bmat, I think the students who are applying from the United Kingdom mostly are required to take the English language test. Some universities waive it if you hold a passport of certain English-speaking countries, but I think it's a safer bet to just get it over with and be done with that exam. So, my child did take the IELTS, and I think it's wise to do that. So as far as the BMAT versus the UCAT, again, it depends on, when you apply from outside of the United Kingdom, I think there's a certain, or at least for us, in our experience, my child was underage, so there was very few options available. So, which is why it's important to go there and look at your university websites for each one of these universities. So you can then, if it doesn't really fit in, or you find that you're in a different curriculum, you don't have as many resources, or the system wasn't set up to get your process or your application going through very easily. So you might want to be a little savvy about whether or not you're going to take a BMAT exam, or do you want to take BMAT. BMAT tends to be a little more academic, and the UCAT has hardly anything academic. So the preparation is quite good. So if your child's only looking at doing the UK entrance exam and is meeting the criteria for age and is looking to apply to universities that would accept BMAT, which are fewer, they have fewer dates as well for international students, I would strongly encourage you to try both. Otherwise, stick to the one that is more widely accepted by universities, which would be the UCAT. So the key area to work on, which for some kids it sort of just happens. They might want to just shadow a doctor in the hospital, and what was at that point just for the sake of experience, or for the sake of them having to know what they want to do, try and harness that to work in your favor towards having it mentioned in your personal statement, or be reflective, and find ways to get certificates so that you can corroborate your work experience. Because unlike the United Kingdom, where things can be easily verified because it's a one system, you're applying from somewhere else, so it's not going to be so easy to just verify that. So you need to have certificates that you will be attaching at some point to your application later. So the universities might ask, and any volunteer work is helpful as well. So it's I can't have what's happening with this. So personal statement is another thing that's the Ucas is the application form. It's really very simple. They have one application form. You can choose 4 universities and one backup, which is a non-medical university. So it's extraordinarily simple. It's not very expensive, in comparison to the United States applications to MD pre-med programs. It's open, or even just pre-med programs if you're not a citizen. But there's just one essay, so it's really quite easy to have to do that, because in the States you would write at least 12 essays per university, and each university you pay separately. So the Ucas, I must say, is in that regard very easy to with, and so you must really think about a personal statement that sort of fits most of the universities you're trying to apply to, because some may not at all look at your personal statement, and some may have certain areas of interest, and those topics are well outlined in the websites for the university. So it's important to look at that. So it doesn't have to be a curriculum vitae. It really has to shine through as who you are and why you're doing what you're doing. I think a lot of our speakers ahead had highlighted that. I can't emphasize the importance of researching the universities. It's really important. And for me, as a parent, I felt the area or location of the university was important to me, because I was sending my child far away. I wanted for her to be in a place, like Aditya was mentioning, and what does the city have to offer? For me, the academic aspect of medicine was certainly important, but I also felt that my child, as a parent, was embarking on the first few years of adult life, and I wanted for her to have an experience from a city that gave her a good exposure in terms of other things like museums or, diversity in the community and easy access to get back home. So there's a whole different set of things that you would look at. I was not about to be willing to do travel that would require planes, trains, and buses to get to her place. So as a parent, you might have different requirements. In our case, age was a big bar. So I think the universities are getting a little more strict with the age this year too. So if you are, because certain countries or you moved countries like we did, you might have just skipped a grade here and there, and you might not think much of it, but then it can come back to bite you later. So I would say please look at it. And accepted curricula again, even within India, we have about 6 or 7 different curricula. So I know that there might be some ambiguity when you look at the website because we had a personal experience with that. So please communicate directly with each university. Look at the requirements of scores because they vary for your, unlike the A levels, which is one board or one syllabus or one scoring system. We have multiple systems in different parts of the world. So the scoring requirements are different for different curricula. Also pay attention to the number of seats. Like other than all the other speakers said, it's a strategy. How you apply and get in is a strategy. So you want to kind of know whether your UCAT score, your BMAT score is commensurate or going to give you a good enough chance to get in. But you also need to look up how many seats do they really have for international students. And if you really dig in some more, you'll actually find you look up, you can sort of guess which countries might have had better success rates in getting in versus not. For my daughter, she was not interested in picking programs that would require 6 years of med school. So again, something that you might want to look into. Some universities have a 6-year program and some have a 5-year program. So if that's something that's a big deal breaker for you, whether they have, I think when a student or a person is willing to travel continents for an education, I kind of look at them as somebody who's going to be a global citizen, may not put down roots at the one place, maybe not. And therefore, it's probably wise to keep your options open. So you might want to see if they have tie-ups with other universities abroad, whether they have abilities to, it may not be important to you, but it's worthwhile. It's food for thought if you want to think about those. You might also want to pay attention to catchment areas. To me, these were very important. I mean, it was important for me to see where, although the beauty of the United Kingdom is NHS is so well standardized and the Gcse regulates the education so wonderfully that, most people, almost all universities, the undergrad education is fairly standardized. But if you wanted to look at those, I think it might be interesting. So there are a lot of learning pathways or learning methods that different universities follow. There's CBL, PBL, and the traditional, and maybe a combination of all of them. So it's important to have a certain sense or understanding of that because your child may or may not be willing to pursue one kind of training method. I know mine didn't. She chose one over the other and therefore chose to apply. And the dissection was again something that she was looking at. So, if you're looking, it may or may not be important, but again, something that, you might want to pay some attention to. Research requirements and opportunities. Some universities are very research heavy and might encourage or might end up having an extra year into research. If that's not your cup of tea and you're more gearing towards a clinical pathway, then it may not work for you or child as much. So I think these would be important to look at and communicate with each one individually. I know we sort of lost out on one of our options because despite communicating directly, we were assured that the particular curriculum that my child was in was absolutely accepted, but at the end they expected an A-level in addition, which was a little hard. So we lost on one of our applications. So it's important to look at that. So I would say strategize the examination dates as well, because I can see now the timings are going to sink in. Unlike for the kids who are taking the exams from the United Kingdom, the exam dates are going to be very different and will not fall in place with the regular 12th grade examinations. So strategize the examination dates, see that it doesn't clash with other exams that you need to take. It is important to try and shoot it out as far out as possible, so your child has enough time to prepare. And it's a one shot per year, unlike the SATs. You also have to look at scoring very well at the boards, because the A star sort of almost comes up to 95% or more for almost all curricula, whether it's Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, or the United States or India, in any of the different boards that they have. You could try different prep materials. So, what about the counselors? A lot of people living abroad tend to use counselors. I found them personally very hopeless. I'm sorry to say that very blandly, but they didn't seem to. There aren't as many students, at least from India, who are trying to go into undergrad directly into med school. So if you're from India, I would say an educated parent can take out the time. Somewhere like, I probably spent about 100 screen time hours researching stuff, because it was so last minute and I was so completely new to the system. But I would say educating yourself will help you a long way. And it's important for the students to sensitize the school teachers to send the correspondence earlier, because all of the kids applying to UK might be doing so to economics or engineering or even psychology. They have a much later deadline. The Ucas filling is truly the most simplest no-brainer. It's a one form, and it's a 4+1 schools that you apply, and pick the last one at a place that usually has a better chance of acceptance of their own students or offers a good career path. Basically, the fifth option, I would say, pick something that's a fallback career path if your child is open to the idea, or at least might, in the second time round, they reset the exams and reapply, and the school might consider, or the university might consider taking their own candidates. That would be something to look at. So after the application, I don't know what these doodles are, but anyway, it's important to, in the States, we send out these follow-up emails, and so do we in India, and we kind of say, thank you, reply, I'm really interested. I would strongly discourage you from doing that for the United Kingdom. The process takes care of itself. You just wait for your interviews, and when you get your interview calls, please time it strategically and prepare based on the interview. On the university, every university has, in the MMI, out of the different 10 topics, some of them tend to pick more than the others. So please look at that and make a very go-in informed. It's also, the other factor I'm wondering if might be important to some parents is, although for most of the international students, they pay about 5 times more than the home students for the tuition. But certain universities tend to cost more for international students, like the ones in Scotland tends to have a separate fee for international students. So you might, if that's something you're looking at, and most of them also tend to be 6 years, and international connectivity is a little hard. So, certainly look at those things as well if it's important to you. You need to also see how the universities fit in with their future plans. And, that's that. And, I suppose I just breezed through it because the flavor of an application for an international student and perhaps what we look for is a little different. So I hope this was useful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Rama. We wanted to finish the program on time at 6 o'clock. So we got 2 more speakers. I now invite our next speaker, Darshani Ravi, who is a fifth year medical student. Priya did her schooling in Yorkshire in England and currently studying in Latvia in Europe. I'm sure she'll be looking forward to come back to work in the NHS in UK in a few years' time. Priya first spoke in our such an event we organized in 2015 as a sixth form student. So she always likes to volunteer to help. She's going to briefly talk about what, if and how to be a medical student in Europe. Over to you, Priya.
Hi, I think I need the person to stop sharing the screen. So, okay, nice, thank you. Hi everyone, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So, hi everyone, I'm Priya. I'm a fifth year medical student at Riga Student University in Latvia. And I'm here just to talk about the alternative pathway into medicine, which is studying abroad. So you might be wondering, why Riga or why Europe? Now, you might know that medicine in England is highly competitive. And one thing that we do have in European universities is flexible entry requirements, but you do need to research and make sure that some of them might have entrance exams, for example, the universities in Italy. The programs will be taught in English, and they have a very diverse student body. There are people coming from New Zealand, South Africa, Germany, Sweden, Norway, India. So it's really friendly and it's a really nice time as well. You have excellent teaching standards. One of the things I really liked is something called an autopass. So if you consistently do well in your exams, you have the opportunity to skip the final exam and go home earlier. So the university really does reward people who are working hard. There's a lower cost of living. I think I pay like 16 euros for transport a month compared to like 60 euros back at home in England. It's a really beautiful and accessible city. One thing I really like about Riga is that it's really compact. I can travel to many of the hospitals within half an hour, and my travel time from Riga to England is an hour and a half. There are a variety of different national societies. We have a British society, and they run events on how to maybe deal with NHS standard of dealing with emergencies, etc. And a lot of other international events such as Worldwide, Info Fair, which I find really fun to attend. They have this opportunity for a practical year. So in the last year, you have the opportunity to spend 10 weeks in your home country. So England, etc. They also have this opportunity to do Erasmus. So that's where you can spend 1 year in a different European city. So Italy, Sweden. And you have a wide opportunity to work in a variety of countries. So people after graduation head to USA, Australia, New Zealand, UK. So what should you do next? The main thing is research, research, and more research. I can't stress this enough. There are multiple countries, so Czech Republic, Hungary, Bulgaria, Italy, Poland. What I found really useful when I was applying was to contact individuals who studied medicine abroad. So more specifically, contact the university's International Student Association. Check the entry requirements and tuition fees. And one thing I really found useful was to attend an open day. I attended an open day and they showed me all the university's facilities, and I was really impressed. And I would really avoid applying to any university via an agency. I feel like they always are really pricey and it's just easier to do it yourself. So the main question is, can I practice in the UK after studying medicine in Europe? The answer is yes. The main thing is that you can apply for registration without taking PLAB, but there are some other exams you might have to do. So for example, the IELTS. And I can directly enter the FY1 or FY2. However, from 2024, the PLAB will be replaced by the UK MLA, but this will be the standard exam that will be required to be taken by everyone, even in England. I've just provided a few of the resources here. I would really highly tell people not to check agency websites because they're pushing an agenda. Like I said, please contact the Facebook sites of the universities. There are loads of people who would be willing to, help you out. And if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. I can answer you directly here, or I can share my email address and you can message me on there. Thank you very much. And I would just want to say that if you want to study medicine, if there's a will, there's a way, and you will find an opportunity to study where you want. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Priya, and hope you are practicing your Bharatanatyam skills in Europe while studying as well. So we will now go on to our last speaker, Tanuja Dave. She is a medical student in Birmingham. She is very much into teaching and very enthusiastic student who also tutor state school students in her region. Perhaps inspired by her illustrious parents, Professor Subodh Dave and Ananta Dave, both are consultant psychiatrists and quite active teachers. So over to you, Tanuja.
Hi guys. So like I said, I'm Tanuja. I'm a fourth year medical student at King's. I'll keep this quite quick because I know we're nearing the end. I'm sorry, there's a really loud car outside my house now. But this is just to tell you a little bit about life as a medical student, to see, once you've done all of this work, kind of what awaits you at the end of the tunnel. So what to expect from medical school. So in some ways, once you've done all the work to get into medical school, that's when the journey really begins. It is very busy. Being a doctor is busy, being a medical student is busy. But what I will say is that it's a very good social experience. It's a whole new experience. It's unlike school. It's not busy like school. You're very much an independent learner. You're supposed to schedule your own time. You make up new friends, new colleagues, new business relationships. And it's really a way where you're busy all the time, but it's quite fulfilling and you're achieving so many things. And it's a really good opportunity to take part in so many extracurricular activities, both academic and not academic, not only to boost your CV, but to get a really good understanding of the world around you. And I've put here, you're treated differently in that when you go into medical school, there is that expectation that you're a medical student, you're about to become a doctor, to go into the world, and that comes with some responsibility. So, which is actually quite nice. So you'll be, early on, you'll be seeing patients in the power of privilege and responsibility in hospitals, and it will feel like you're making a difference. It will feel like you're affecting people's lives. And while that comes with, maybe some worries or some stress, it's actually a very fulfilling way to study. It's very stuck in from the get-go. And I think it's a very rewarding experience. And this continues into your career. And lastly, I will keep this short. So what to consider moving forward. So medical school and medicine are both long careers. You have to be committed. So really think about it, do some work experience as other speakers have said, and just try and understand if this is what you really want to do. I think work experience is so important. Talk to any doctors, talk to any medical students you know. Studying is at least 5 years, and after that, when you're older, you will be taking exams still revising whilst working, and the learning never stops. Although it sounds cliche, it does never stop. So while that can be a little bit of a commitment and you have to make sure that you really want it, that's also very, I say fulfilling way to spend your career. You're always learning new things from a variety of people. Medicine is always changing, so it's a very varied career and very new and exciting. So if you're really committed to it, it can bring you a lot of joy. I've put here again, medicine is a varied field, and in medical school you have the opportunity to learn about so many different fields. It's not just what you see on the TV or just the hospital or just the GP practice. There are so many things you can do associated with medicine. And medical school is a really good time to explore all of these additional venues that you might not have thought of in the first place. So it's a really good time to just open your mind, allow yourself to be open to all possibilities and soak up as much information as you can. It's a great learning environment. And lastly, it's a lot of fun. Make sure you plan your time effectively. You need scheduling, you need some organization, because you can work really hard, but you can enjoy a lot as well. Many doctors speak to them and they will say they're still very good friends with their friends from medical school. It's a great time in your life, a great time socially and academically. So you've got a lot to look forward to, and I'll end it there.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for your brief presentation, Tanuja. We have had an excellent day, I have to say. There are about 200 people who have watched live this program, and some people have asked how to see it again. We are going to share this presentation on YouTube soon, and also if your child, if any students, they are in GCSE year, that is year 11 or year 12 in school, we have a WhatsApp group where you can interact with everyone. We are also planning to publish a book next year, and hopefully, that will contain all the information. A few questions, just briefly. We got 5 more minutes, and I thought maybe we'll try to answer them. Hopefully, it's been answered in the chat box by our speakers. Some have asked about how to work as a doctor in UK. They are a medical student in India. Perhaps you can WhatsApp me privately, and then I will go through that. But let us concentrate on the medical uni entry this time. Commonest questions: any resource material? So few people have asked, what are the books to prepare for the medical university? So can I ask one of the speakers to unmute and then answer the question? Is there any books you will recommend?
So from what experience I can possibly give as a mom who was involved with my son's the interview process, more than books, I would really suggest there are plenty of very good websites like Medic Portal, Medic Mind, and those are just naming a few, because what you need is more of an active, interactive sessions. You need lot more updated materials. Books can at times get a bit outdated, and it also can be very monotonous. But I would say offhand, Medic Portal was excellent, and Medic Mind too offers you a lot of in-depth information that is needed. So I would really suggest those two websites.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything, Abhi, do you wanted to add on?
Yes, please. So normally in the books as well, they would say how to answer a question as well, but a lot of the times words doesn't make any difference in the interview. It's how you actually add life to the words and how you actually say it. So just like Raji Auntie just said, I'd say like watching YouTube videos as well, so you can see how other doctors and other medical students come across, because it's your tone, your voice, and your body character and language which will add the effect and make an impression on the interviewer.
Okay, thank you, Abhi. So I will ask, we still have time for a few more questions. I will ask the speakers to answer very briefly in a few seconds. The next common question is, people asked about scholarships. I presume it is about scholarships, university fees. Can anyone answer that? Are there any scholarship to study medicine in the uni in UK?
Your university fees, as far as I am aware, is you will have a portion of, because depending on how much your parents earn, you will be allocated funding or loan that can be taken out. So these loans are low interest loans, which one has to only pay once they join their job. So, and thereby clearly the loans which especially depending on where you are with your parents' income is what it depends on. So thereby, as far as I'm aware, there are no scholarships as such available, but depending on your postcode, where you come from, the schooling, your parents' pay scale, all this will be taken into account. So when you actually apply for your funding, this is all taken into consideration. Hope that helps that query.
Okay, thank you. So how much can anyone say, how much is the yearly fee at the moment? Either it comes from the bank of mom and dad, or you take a loan. So how much is it's costing now? Abhi?
So the yearly fee, which is covered by student finance, is 9,250. That's for the actual course itself. But then your actual maintenance loan ranges from a minimum of 4,200, which is everyone's eligible to that, to a maximum of 9,900, depending on where you are, what your parents earn, etc. So that's what could be provided.
And how much does it cost on a monthly basis for you at the moment?
Oh, to live.
Have you taken out a loan, or how do you manage your finance?
So I do get student finance, but I don't get a lot of it. I get quite little, the lowest amount really. But so basically, I'd say accommodation outside of London should be around £150 a week. That's outside of London. The tuition fees is paid for by Student Finance England, so I don't see that money. The Student Finance deals with that. And I'd say to live as a student, accommodation aside, it probably costs around £60 to £70 a week. So nearly about £300 to £400 a month minimum, okay, including travel, etc.
Okay, thank you, Abhi. And for an overseas student, I guess it will be around roughly 3 times this fee. Okay, we'll go on to the.
Can I interject, Errol? It's actually more than that. It's every year is different, so it averages somewhere around. The first year starts somewhere roughly between 38 to 42,000 pounds, and it goes up to about 50 to 52,000 by the 5th year. So
okay.
Somewhere
on an average, it's going to take about more than 150,000 pounds. Am I right?
45,000 per year will average out for you. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And few other questions about work experience. People wanted to do work experience. I will ask quickly, Samriddhi, quickly, can you tell about what work experience would you suggest?
Hi, okay. So work experience can be pretty much anything. So generally in a medical environment, you would want, specifically in a medical environment, but I know it might be quite difficult right now with COVID-19. So I guess right now, all I can really recommend is, especially if you're in year 10 or 11 right now, starting to look for places, maybe start emailing in advance so you have more opportunity when there is fewer restrictions around around hospitals and GP surgeries. Also, maybe you could just ask to do maybe a Zoom call just to kind of get some insight about the role that they play, and if you can't exactly get specific work experience, I think that would also be quite useful. But yeah, I'm not really sure what else you can do in this current environment, but I think that would be quite useful.
Okay, thanks, Samriddhi. Next question is to Priya. Having or doing a medical university in Europe, would you, can you share your thoughts? Some students do want to study in Europe. Any quick word about, do you enjoy it? Do you recommend it? Or, would you have reservations about it?
I do recommend it. I remember my years when I was applying to England. It's just really competitive, and this was a nice alternative for me to take part in. And now that I've come here, I've really come to love the city. I really do like it here, and I think it really helps having just a really diverse number of students. I have friends from practically every country in the world now, so I always have somewhere to visit. But you do have to put hard work in. It's definitely a traditional style of teaching. So 2 years, preclinical, then clinics, and then the last year is your practical year. So if someone wants something like that, it's definitely a good alternative. And I feel that especially now, I don't think it's it's long distance. For me, it's only an hour and a half from the airport to my house, and then literally from the airport to my apartment, it's 15 minutes. So I don't feel like I'm so far away, and you have FaceTime, you have all these new social media, so you always feel that you are, in touch with your family. So yeah, it's definitely an experience I would recommend, but I would always recommend you to research. There's not just Latvia, there's many other countries. So reach out to the British students specifically. You'd get really good insight.
And I think there's just one more question there in the chat box. What is the fee structure in Europe, like somebody's asked? So how would you compare that with the UK graduate system?
I pay 10,000 euros a year, and it's split into 5,000 and 5,000. It roughly works out the same if you consider the conversion costs, but I do feel like because the living costs are cheaper here, it's okay. It depends though. Some universities do 8,000, some universities, especially in the Czech Republic, are a bit more pricier, so you do have to research and find that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Priya.
The next question is to Karthi. You study in London. Some students specifically avoid London. They want to go to a smaller city. Have you got any thoughts on it? Would you recommend London and capital city, or bigger cities, or a smaller city? I hope you all had a interesting 2-hour session listening to different aspects. Unfortunately, we cannot cover everything in detail. For example, if you want to talk about personal statement, that itself would take a few hours. So we just wanted to give you a flavor of what can be done. We also do mock interviews for year 13 students. We also plan to repeat this next year. So as I said before, if you want to be part of our group, do WhatsApp me. And thank you all for joining me today. And special thanks to all our speakers, Dr. Raghuraman, Samriddhi, Dr. Raji Anand, Megan, Karthi, Abhi, Dr. Kumar Mahari, Aditya, Dr. Rama Narasimhan, Priya, and Tanuja. Hope you all had a good day and enjoy the rest of the evening. Goodbye and bye.